So a quick introduction to this video again. Special thanks goes to Kevin for making a generous donation to support this channel. You will find his YouTube channel in the video description below. Same goes for Denrix, who partially helped with the script of this guide. And don't forget, this is my first guide, so for the love of God, give a lot of feedback so I can actually improve the flaws before my next guide. So yeah, enjoy the guide. So first let's look at what I'm actually going to cover in this video. We'll start off by quickly going through health and mentality, then identifying your mistakes so you can see what you have to improve on most. And afterwards we'll look at how you can actually improve yourself, divided into three main parts: movement, crosshair, placement, and aim. I also tried to put as much gameplay in the guide as I possibly could. So quickly, health and mentality. Firstly, you should sleep and eat well. I don't want to sound like your mom, but it does help you focus and have a better reaction speed. Secondly, focus on your own game. Don't get this habit of checking the scoreboard every 10 seconds or get distracted by the chat, etc. You could turn off the chat too in settings if you think that helps. Just focus on you playing and nothing else. Thirdly, do not tilt. Tilting is essentially getting mad at the game, which just makes you lose focus and play worse. Just remember, it's only a game, and if you feel too frustrated, take a break before playing your next match. And lastly, you have to think in the long run. It doesn't matter if you have a bad match or a bad day, the goal is to gradually improve over time. So the next part is identifying your mistakes. Self-reflection is very important in order to improve in any game really. I'll basically show you some clips of me dying, and we'll divide every death into either aim, movement, or crosshair placement. Doing this to yourself can show what your biggest weaknesses are and where you need to improve on most. And afterwards we'll look at how you actually improve on those three things. So the next two clips very clearly have aim as issue. Make sure you know which of these issues is most common for you in game. Movement can be a bit trickier to recognize, but see it as either exposing yourself to too many angles, exposing yourself to too many people at once, or giving yourself a disadvantage. For example, if you are in the open and your enemy is behind cover. Make sure you can recognize your own mistakes, that's the most important thing. Lastly, a common mistake is crosshair placement, where you're either not looking the right way or didn't place your crosshair where the enemy actually appeared. Now that we know how to recognize our own mistakes, we can work on improving them, starting with movement. So to improve your movement, you just have to stick to a few basic rules. I'll go more in depth on how to move around on specific maps in future guides about those specific maps, but for now, here you can for example see I'm exposed to way too many angles. In general, always avoid the middle of maps, especially if they are open spaces like Parkside, like Sawmill. It's the reason nobody goes to the middle of Lighthouse. So this is what you want to be doing in general. Stay at the border of the map and stay around cover if possible. You can see I have far less angles to cover, and if somebody would take a duel with me right now, I'm not in a disadvantage. This applies to essentially every map, but again, I will be going more in depth in future guides. So another way to use movement to your advantage. Here you see me peeking the corner just enough to see him and get info on where he is, without giving him a reasonable chance at killing me. When I'm certain he stays in his position, I peek and shoot him right away, giving him no chance to respond. I also can't stress the importance of sound enough. I knew there was an enemy coming out of that container because I heard him walk. Especially in Bay 5 and Bay 7, footsteps are very clear. So use them to your advantage by shifting and simply listening to the sounds. It's the same reason I can hear an enemy is trying to flank me on my right side. Next up is crosshair placement, where in my opinion a lot of people underestimate the value of. Let's say the enemy spawned at the ruins on the hill. You don't want to be looking in front of you. Instead, you want to consistently look towards the enemy spawn while occasionally glancing towards the sides to avoid getting shot from the side. This way, if you see an enemy appear in their spawn, you can instantly shoot at them. Another aspect of crosshair placement is, for example in close quarter maps, simply always placing a crosshair where the enemy could appear and properly following the corners of the map. I still see a lot of sloppy crosshair placement, like for example this, where you don't go around the corner with your crosshair. This is smart because imagine there's an enemy right around the corner. You are not looking at them, and it's an easy kill for them. What also matters is the distance between your crosshair and the corner. Let's say you hear an enemy coming out of that container. If you have a very fast reaction speed, you can place your crosshair right next to the corner and shoot the enemy right away. However, if you aren't fast enough, the enemy will run past your crosshair and you will have to quickly flick your crosshair to still hit the enemy. To avoid this, people who have a slower reaction speed have to place their crosshair further from the corners, so the enemy will still walk into the crosshair. You should find what distance works best for you on your own. Last but not least, aim. I do want to note that if you are willing to invest into proper gear, a decent gaming mouse from, for example, Logitech or Zowie combined with a gaming mouse pad can heavily improve your aim. I also want to note that if your aim is good enough, it can make up for mistakes in other aspects. Here you see me make a mistake movement wise by exposing myself to two people and being in a heavily disadvantageous situation. Yet, due to my better aim, I'll come out on top anyway. Also note that Content of course is not a fast-paced game. That's why in general I recommend trying a lower sensitivity to those struggling with making precise movements and or hitting smaller targets, like people only showing their head. For reference, I personally play on in-game sensitivity of 0.15 and 500 dpi on my mouse. There are very expanded guides on the internet to find your best sensitivity. Apart from that, there are no tricks to getting a better aim quickly, it's simply a lot of practice and hard work. A way to make your practice more efficient, however, would be to only play with accurate pistols, which will then force you to go for headshots and punish you when you miss your shots. Also try to hip fire as much as possible, as it is much faster and you can more easily switch targets. Only aim down sights with weapons with more recoil or on long ranges. And I guess that kinda wraps up the first guide. So if you found that guide useful, you can support my channel by subscribing with the button on my right. And don't forget to leave feedback in the comments on what I can improve on and what to do my future guides on. So yeah, thanks for watching, cheers.